IKAAÁV SIKUKUN, Iñupiat for ice bridges.
Ang yukurak tungawan ito niyad manigorami kangani ako pirali tunga kamanga siksenyat meunga IKAAÁVIK a little old man I am becoming. On top these maniks on the tundra, the grass grows in clumps like a little seat, so we call them manik. Manigorami kangani on top ako pirali tunga. I must sit down. My back is becoming bent over. IKAAÁVIK, it smells, but you can't help it when you're growing older. Lament.
I've been asked by many elders to help get their story out to the world, commenting that they live in the middle of nowhere and they feel there's no way to get their voice out to the public about how their environment is changing very rapidly. I am honored to have the trust of elders, especially in Northwest Alaska, to video record their stories and to share these stories with the world. Many of these stories express the importance of securing a subsistence way of life, which includes access to foods gathered and hunted from the wild country.
This is the design that old Eskimos had.
There are concerns related to this due to the rapid changes in the environment, such as prevailing wind direction changes, temperature increases, shortened winters, ocean acidification, permafrost melt, erosion, species die-offs. This list is long, and the change has been so rapid, no one seems to know exactly how to best adapt and stay safe in such a changing world. This video showcases interviews with Indigenous members of Kotzebue, including the IKAAÁVIK SIKUKUN Indigenous Expert Advisory Council that I've been interviewing since the start of our project in November of 2016.
That side, so the fog came in this way and it went right into town.
Many elders have expressed to me what kind of climate and other environmental conditions are important to maintain the integrity of foods gathered from the land. Healthy, cool, and predictable ocean conditions have been creating challenges for today's Iñupiat people. I'd like to showcase knowledge shared by Vernetta Moberly. She's been a close friend of mine for over 6 years, and has opened my mind to the ways of the upriver, where she is originally from, and from the coastal Iñupiat people of Northwest Alaska, where she now resides. A true young elder, as many people describe her as.
Noyet katilgin yaksut. Miksik da kapta takkirit. Ni igitaktaklugit. Akaguchait. Many times we would throw the guts of the sheefish to the noyaks. By morning, the cleanup crew clean it up. They eat everything. This is a good time to cut your fish, to hang it. Make your half-dried caulk.
The sea ice is used extensively for subsistence travel, hunting, and processing foods.
Now it's just good to clean your fish right out here because the water itself is melted snow. It's just wonderful and clean, pristine water. Just clean it as best as you could. rubbing off the blood. When I go home, I will wash them again in a bucket of vinegar water. So when it's rainy, people would just try and clean them like this, drain them nice, and put them straight into the freezers so the fish won't spoil. And sheepfish is real easy to spoil. We need our kids to enjoy what we enjoy, clean river, clean ocean, and it's us people to do that job, to help her, to go back into mending. The lungs, the trees needs to grow, make sure our planet survive. IKAAÁVIK SIKUKUN.
On May 8th of 2018, I had the opportunity to take a snow machine trip across Kotzebue Sound's thin spring sea ice out towards Cape Lawson, which is roughly 16 miles south of Kotzebue. As terrifying as it was to traverse across such thin ice covered in meltwater, we made it to the Cape. Bobby Schaefer and John Goodwin shared the changes they've seen over their lifetime, which has been truly profound.
We're at the top of Cape Blossom, and this is the highest point today. But all the highest points of Cape Blossom are gone in my lifetime. This was a lot higher when we were kids. Massive erosion. The lighthouse fell into the ocean probably 25, 30 years ago. When we used to commercial fish out here, you used to see it all the time when it fell down. But all that is gone. Massive erosion throughout the Baldwin Peninsula is probably the same as this, but just right over here, about 5 miles. It's now eroding faster than most places, so it is real. There's no doubt in my mind that the waters are rising.
I'm still grateful we made it to the Cape that day, to witness a lack of sea ice no one had ever documented. Standing at the edge of the Cape, we watched the open ocean's water lap up on the thin sea ice edges, in a way telling us that this would be the last day of 2018 we could safely traverse the sea ice. And it was. Our field season of sea ice research came to an end that day because it had to. The sea ice would start breaking any moment, too close to shore for any kind of travel. I spent over 6 years frequenting Kotzebue and the surrounding villages and landscapes, but still, I'm merely a visiting ethnographer, recording other people's stories. Is it really okay for me to share stories that are not mine? John Goodwin is an elder who has expressed to me and other visiting researchers how he feels his knowledge isn't validated and hopes that someone like me would publish his traditional knowledge, saying, people learn a lot about white man's ways through TV, but if you start putting some native stuff in there, they ain't gonna forget. He also said, I sure hope you guys put something out there because I'm sure it will grab the world's attention.
We work with the different agencies. Pretty much every time we try to acknowledge our traditional knowledge, what they claim is invalid, basically because there's no documentation of what we know. So that's where a lot of our ideas and what we know, when we tell them that they couldn't accept that. But as years went by, like this project, I can see it's going to be real beneficial, basically, to the future, in the future, because we're validating what our people knew with this kind of project. As long as I'm capable and able to help, I'd like to, because, it hurts a person like me to try to tell, other people, and they're not understanding or not listening about our knowledge, what we know.
Bobby Schaefer, lifelong Kotzebue resident, fisherman, and plays a role as a boat taxi captain. He has expressed his concerns about climate change to me for years. His concerns include the end times and doomsday. He takes Western scientists out on his boat throughout the year, interacting with people who are in the center of climate change research. The exchange of information gives Bobby an edge to current climate change state of affairs. He is also out in the wilderness, experiencing changes firsthand, and getting his knowledge confirmed by Western science data shared to him by many. Bobby has been a great guide for the IKAAÁVIK SIKUKUN team, and also sharing his firsthand, lifelong experience of how the Northwest Arctic is rapidly changing. On May 7, 2018, we were doing sea ice research several miles out on the sea ice from Kotzebue. Bobby shared with me what he witnessed over this last winter.
When we got involved with the sea ice study, we were pretty excited at one point in time last year, and we thought we'd have a normal winter, but it didn't happen. So it created some challenges for us to try to do a lot this year because the sea ice didn't get thick enough, so a lot of us that go out on it and go seal hunting didn't do that this year because it was just too unsafe, more so this year than last. So when this whole thing was put together, we were excited about the drones and their participation in the study with the cameras and other things that they have on it. We're also excited about getting out and doing some actual hands-on work out in the ocean. We were limited there, just too unsafe. A lot of wind. The first day we went over to Sadie Creek and wanted to go out a little bit, 50 yards and there was fresh cracks already. Ice was safe, the ice was about 3 foot. So one of those things when you have fresh cracks, you just don't go out there. You put your life in danger. So that was one of the things that made us real cautious when we started traversing in the other places in the ocean. We were able to get out to the sandbars out there because we just followed the sandbars and we tested all the waves just to make sure that we can get out there safely. And we did that twice, and that was stretching it because there was high winds and a lot of waves out there. Since the Kotzebue Sound was ice-free, you have 40-mile-an-hour winds, you have 20-foot waves, and they were beating against the edge of the ice, and huge chunks of ice were leaving.
On April 2nd, 2019, a few members of the IKAAÁVIK SIKUKUN project headed out to the sea ice edge northwest of Kotzebue. The ice edge ends up being a great place for Bobby to share examples of the changes in the landscape and wildlife seen over he and his father's lifetime.
Like my dad said, he just couldn't believe in the last 25 or 30 years that he'd never seen storms that strong in his lifetime. And he was on this earth for 91 years, you know, seeing bugs that he'd never seen before, seeing birds that he'd never seen before. He talked about the thawing of the permafrost and how it's so evident that it's happening, you know, and huge changes, you know. Look at this. I just saw 20 seals go by just in the last half hour, 45 minutes. What's happening is that the concentrations of seals are going to where there is ice. There isn't too many places there's ice. This is an example of what's happening is they're concentrating because they have to have ice.
Seals as a staple food in this part of the world are at the center of concern for local people.
We used to come out here this time of the year because we knew the ice was going to be 5 foot thick, you know. And it's been like that for probably thousands of years. But now ice doesn't get thick anymore. Normally, in March and April, this is frozen solid all the way to the outside lead, where the lead normally is on past Sealing Point, which is about probably another 20 miles out here. But now, this is unheard of. And this is the third year in a row it's been like this. Things are changing real fast. We had record temperatures in February, you know, and normally that's your 30, 40 below month. And temperatures in February were above 20 degrees, all February.
Indigenous people sharing their concerns and sharing their knowledge within the research teams helps focus research on the locations that are the most important for subsistence hunting. Cyrus Harris grew up at camp, which means he grew up surrounded by the traditions of his people relating to gathering, hunting, fishing, and knowing the seasons intimately so as to know when best to gather certain species.
But over here is where I would see it just crumble and work its way up, slowly work its way up until we finally get open water along this channel here.
Intimately connected to the water and the land around Kotzebue Sound, he is seen and respected as a leader, an elder. He is a leader in keeping Iñupiat foods on elders' tables by running a traditional foods program through the Menilic Association to cover the costs of hunters getting wild game for elders. He also teaches youth how to process local wild food.
This came from the Kotzebue Sound. We've separated the carcass at the first class. So that's the first step. Next step is to be cleaning the meat portions off the blubber before it gets separated from the skin. A lot of them is first-time hands-on experience for them. So it kind of gives them an idea on where they get their seal oil from that they consume at home.
Cyrus has been a huge asset to the IKAAÁV Sikukun team. He not only helps with data gathering, guiding the team safely across the sea ice, answering questions, but also provides a wealth of invaluable knowledge about the weather, sea ice, seal habitat.
So this would be to test if it was a male seal that's using this hole?
And general observations about changes in the climate over his lifetime.
And it's been a very unusual weather pattern that we've been having this winter. We had more storms than usual, snowstorms. We have more snow than we had for quite a number of years. So we're going to be seeing a lot of overflow during the spring thaw, a lot of water runoff and possible low-lying areas of some certain flooding. But yet the time has come. We're still in the month of April. Right, and the experience that we're having right now with the weather that we've had before was probably about mid-May.
On April 30th, 2018, I rode with Cyrus on his snow machine, along with team members following from behind. Cyrus spotted some seals and was able to share information about this staple subsistence food. Seal habitat and distribution is also at the center of our research priorities.
We're back out here in front of Sisolic, roughly about a mile off the beach on the channel that heads out to the Kotzebue Sound. And here we have appears to be a denning area with a little roofing side on there where the pup is being protected while the mother is out here. So she's leaving a little blood behind, so which I'm guessing is from birthing.
What I love about documenting knowledge through film is that I'm able to find ways to record knowledge within the context in which someone is speaking about, allowing the viewers to gain a deeper understanding.
We're out here in front of Iñupiat, roughly about 12 miles away from Kotzebue on the Kotzebue Sound, near Sisolic, and out here, not very far out here, I'm guessing about 4, maybe 5 miles out here is open water that we had all winter due to the prevailing east-southeast winds and a lack of landfast ice that can hold it in. Up on the horizon here you can see some ice piles, what we call eiviniks, but the blue skies out here is what we normally would look for when we're looking for open water. As you can see, these dark blue skies. On this direction toward my right, it connects over towards Sealing Point, which is another ideal place to where we would venture off to the ice to go and look for leads to hunt out of. But in this case, this year, we can't even leave the beach over at Sealing Point because it's open all the way to the beach. So this is what we're kind of looking for. Something like after a storm in February, after a good cold spell, then we would have, there'd be a good winter storm and then a warming weather such as what we have today, and then suddenly a big blue sky that we'd be looking for a lead to be hunting off. That would be an ideal time to be out on the lead. But of course, this past several years, we couldn't go out there because we didn't had stable landfast ice soon enough throughout the winter. The ice that we're standing on just kind of formed here. I believe this one formed in this past January, what we're sitting on. It should have been frozen in October on a normal given year.
It seems important for elders to keep sharing with the youth and others how to read the weather, how to read the ice texture and color to detect if it's safe to travel.
The clouds always indicate open water because the vapor is coming up. So every time you see a black cloud in the ocean, you know where the water is. A couple of days ago, half of this was black and the other half was white. So I knew there was a fog coming. Okay. And then on this side was all black, so the fog didn't hit that side. So the fog came in this way and it went right into town. It's too open, way ahead of schedule. When we were kids, we hunted ugruk after June 15th. Now, it just got ugruk last week, and a friend of mine got 2 of them 2 days ago.
I think it's easy to judge something we don't understand. I think film can help take people to places they may never go and hear stories they may otherwise not have access to hear. Ross Schaefer, a very active hunter and lifelong resident of Kotzebue. We have become friends over the years, and I've been able to film him seal hunting several times. I'm tremendously grateful for the trust to film such a sacred hunt. On April 4th, 2019, I'm able to film a seal hunt in which Ross is mentoring a young man to teach him the ways to successfully hunt seal from the sea ice. I'm sitting on the back of the sled, sliding across the packed snow and onto the Kotzebue Sound sea ice. I wear goggles to protect the sharp spears of ice that come up from the fast-moving snow machine. All the locals I've spoken with have discussed how dangerous the sea ice has been. 2018 had major lack of sea ice, much warmer weather than is considered normal, and sea ice measuring 33 to 36 inches, as opposed to 4 to 5 feet thick, which is what locals tell me was the norm until recently. This year, in 2019, our team was taking measurements reading only 12 to 15 inches. If I'm going to risk going out with anyone on today's unstable, unpredictable sea ice, I'm glad to be traveling with someone who spends a lot of time in the country. How will people stay safe as the world changes so rapidly and people feel they can't always trust their traditional knowledge these days? I hope we continue to find ways to showcase Indigenous knowledge about climate change. I feel it's important for all of our well-being. Thank you to all the Iñupiat people who have shared knowledge about their ancestral land, and I hope this will help build a bridge of understanding of how to read our natural world as it changes.
IKAAÁVIK SIKUKUN, Iñupiat for Ice Bridges.